All right. First of all, good afternoon. Really appreciate you all coming in, and hopefully this will be helpful. I'm going to run it a little bit different than some of our general sessions, and afterwards, please stay on and let me know what you think. But what I was trying to do is just kind of tackle the pieces of curriculum that are lined up with where you guys where the class is, even if you're on a block schedule. Most everybody should be, if you're teaching the class, should be doing the writing life right now. So as I mentioned in the email, I picked out some teachers, and I'm going to try to do this throughout the year, who I know taught it before and have maybe had some success. And it doesn't mean they're masters of it. None of us are. But so we're going to start out with them sharing a little bit about what they did last year that worked. And then I do think we can get into, and we can ask questions on that, and then get into, hopefully a useful discussion about how to, maybe some of the obstacles even these teachers are having from stuff that worked last year that may not lend itself as well as in these uncertain times. And then we'll stay on, and we can all answer any questions. Kind of start this as sort of a presentation, but also use it as a way to have a useful discussion about how do we teach this stuff now. So what I wanted to do, and some of them may want to share their screens, I will enable that. And kind of show you guys, so don't be afraid to do that. I'm going to be the DJ letting people in here. So I wanted to start out with, the way I see the writing life is, it's a combination of things. So it's not just this, then this, then this. It's ultimately, as you guys know, first of all, just raise a hand. Who taught this last year? Okay. And then the other is Shayna. Is that Shayna on here? She'll show up soon. Then you guys know that all this stuff kind of goes together. Hey, Shayna. All this stuff kind of goes together where we're trying to, I would say more broadly, create the kind of that atmosphere that you want to, last the whole year. And it starts with the writing life, on top of the other stuff that you're trying to teach. So who would, so I invited Meredith, Christy, Kate, and Shayna to just kind of feature some of the things that they have done. Who would like to go first on anything to do with the writing life, getting things started, the feather circle, anything that has to do with the beginning? Some of them use, I think all of them use Blood Don't Lie. That might be helpful to show how that enhances the curriculum, if it did. Any of that stuff. Who'd like to go first?
I'll go first. I don't mind.
Okay. Hey, Christy. And
hey,
Christy,
how are you doing?
Correct me if I'm wrong. You are at North Gwinnett High School.
Correct.
And what's interesting about that situation is Christy last year taught it in a district that hadn't all the way adopted it yet. They had only approved it as an elective. And she is a theater teacher, right?
That is correct, and
it's
still that way.
Teacher that teaches in a remote. It doesn't teach in the theater.
Right. I teach intro to theater, fundamentals of theater is its technical name, and I teach in a trailer.
Yeah, they put her in the portable. So
they did
a portable black box. Let's call it.
Yep. Yeah. So I told my administrator, they put me in a huge room the first year, and then they made me go to a trailer, and now they got me online. So
now look where you are.
Just to see how good I am.
Now you're like in a room and you're locked in there.
I am in jail.
Okay, so go ahead, Christy. Share with us what you want.
Sure. I think that the biggest advantage that I had last year with the Writing Life and that unit was that we built community, and we spent that first quarter using Blood Don't Lie, using the curriculum that Georgia Film Academy gave to us, and we created real community within the class, and we created a sense of no failure, of experimenting with your voice, with finding your voice, with really learning to write at school, but not write for school so much. It's not writing for a grade. And I think that really that mental shift was hard for a lot of kids because they're so programmed that you write and you get a grade. And I've just gotten all my writing autobiographies back from my students from this year. And it's the same song, different verse, with the way they have felt that school has really taken away their sense of creativity and their love for writing. Even though they used to love to write, they lost it around 6th grade. And that's pretty standard what I'm seeing. And I saw it last year too. And as I told them that this year would be different, there was this sense of, yeah, whatever. There's that sense of, yeah, you got to prove it to me. And I will, because I know I did it last year, and I really was able to watch this evolution of writers, and they found their voice again, and they found their passion for writing. And I think that first quarter community was, yes, it was the writer's life. Yes, it was learning to write using the writing commandments and those kinds of things, but it was letting go of those shackles that the structure of writing for school has put them into. And it's really opening themselves up to the concept of it being okay to be creative, and it being okay to explore and experiment and write from their hearts, and to experience success with writing again in a way that makes them feel good. And so Blood Don't Lie was a great text to use with all of that instruction, because it's such a beautiful book that tugs at your heartstrings, and it makes you really invest in the characters, and you feel their pain, you feel the anger when you're supposed to, you feel the heartbreak when you're supposed to. It's just such an emotional journey. And so the kids really invest in that book, and because they're already feeling, it's easy to write. And so I did use Blood Don't Lie, and I will absolutely do it again. One thing I don't know that I will have time to do this year, because our classes are shortened. What we're doing at North Gwinnett is we're all online right now, but kids are going to start trickling back in Wednesday. 9th graders come back, and then 10th graders come back a week later, and then 11th and 12th grade come back the week after. But it's not all the kids. It's just the ones who want to come to school. So I'm going to have just I think I've got 4 kids coming back to school. So it's going to be very much a patchwork kind of thing. And what we'll be doing is we'll be conducting class just as we would if they were online still. They'll have their devices in the rooms. They have to sit far away from me. We have to stay separated. And basically, I just do my digital learning thing, and they sit there and watch and do it alongside me. So it's going to be a very different atmosphere. And I don't know that I'm going to have time to do Pizza with Shrimp on Top this year, but I did use it in the Writer's Life last year, and I felt like that was really beneficial to them too, not just for the Writer's Life piece, but also for that seeing what a play structure looks like and those kinds of things. We are limited to about 30 minutes per class of instruction time, and that's the reason I think I just won't have time for it this year. But it was really helpful. So if you have time to incorporate a play, definitely Pizza with Shrimp on Top is great. I did use all of the assignments, like the character analysis and the story analysis and those kinds of assignments that are in the folder of the curriculum from Georgia Film Academy. I really didn't stray from the curriculum that they gave us. I stuck really closely to the calendar every time I could. Like, there are those things that come up, those days that mess with the calendar, but I tried to stick pretty closely to that structure, and it really did work. But like the community is such a big deal.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I want to go to the other teachers and see what they're doing, and then get back to, because when you talked about it, it's making my head hurt, how you're going to have some kids and no kids. I mean, so I do want to revisit this. How are
makes my head hurt too.
Yeah. How are you going to teach this?
Yeah.
All the great stuff you guys did last year. Are you able to do it again? But okay. So who would like to go next? Anybody a smooth transition from what she said, or okay, go ahead, Kate.
Okay, I think that, hey, Christy,
how are you?
Great, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Sets up perfectly what I had to share, which is just a few specific highlights that I thought were very specifically
Yeah.
you know, the best, most participatory and juice flowy kind of assignments that are straight from the curriculum. So do you mind if I share my screen real quick?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay. So let's see, Aaron, when you came in, and I think maybe why you asked me to speak is because we made you rigatoni and cupcakes that said, burn this on them.
Yes.
So that was really fun. There he is in my tiny little trailer with 3 of my students. And I had, I think, only 11 students in my class last year. And I'm an English teacher, but it was only given as an elective, ELA. And this year it's a Brit Lit replacement in Atlanta Public Schools. I'm at Grady High School. And I have 2 classes. And I have one that even has a 0.9 students with disabilities roster on it. And I'm crazy excited about it. So I'm just really psyched. So here is just an example of getting kids into, okay, what does a little map annotation exercise look like? This is too much writing, I'm so sorry, and I'll just explain it. But this is your assignment. This is what we did in the summer, which I just love doing it myself. And this is a really good entry point, I think, because it really gets their juices flowing, right? Like, what are the important memories? Why do they stand out? This is me writing like I'm 8 years old, which is how I do my art. And not even my childhood, but trying to connect with the kids, because this is Candler. I live in Candler Park in Atlanta in the Grady cluster, and I pretended like I was one of my own children. And I was exploding Mentos in the park, and I went to my friend's dad's funeral across the house and that sort of thing. So you get it. And then I drew out Aaron's just quick annotation of his rigatoni with tons of cheese and meat sauce, because I had my students, actually, this was a little bit different, but I had them write a narrative for a feather circle centered on like a food that means something for some reason, because I think that's something we all really connect with. And so that's why I didn't explain it that day, but that's why we drew out the rigatoni. And then you can always have the students bring in food that centers on their memory to celebrate it. And that's a good way to create community. And then burn this letters was a fun thing, right? So it was totally 100% not monitored by me, except that they were happy and engaged, and they got to write whatever they wanted to write. I brought in the envelopes and seals. It never went anywhere. They burned this on them. Lord knows what some of them wrote, but you know what? Who cares? But all of this, not the burn this letters, but everything else part of the feather circle cycle, of course, which I agree, Christy, makes everything so great in terms of community and getting everybody. And by the end, it's such a family, after that unit, they can write anything, and everybody has wonderful insight, and they are not afraid to write, and they're not afraid to share it. And that's my favorite part.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I was, that's the first author visit I had been on where they made like a tray of rigatoni and I couldn't eat it. It looked really good, but I was like, it's 3 o'clock or whatever the time it was. It was weird.
Don't worry about it. In a high school though, you can always eat, like the students will eat anything.
That's right. It was awesome. Okay, cool. Shana, do you want to go? Or can you go? Or are you driving? Are you navigating?
Yes. I won't make you guys watch me drive. I'm nearly home. Can you hear me okay?
If you're nearly home, I'll have Meredith go, and then we'll wait for you to be home.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
All right. Meredith, you want to go?
Yeah. Yes. Am I good?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm only 6 days in, but I tried to do sort of the 3 things that got us ready to do what was so fabulous. And the first thing that I did, and I definitely did a little bit heavier being online, is I talked about how one of the greatest things we were going to do was go through the writing prompts, journal prompts that a published author went through that ultimately became scenes in a play, that ultimately became chapters in a book, that ultimately became a book, and that was the book we were going to read. So they're like, okay, that's cool. So that was the first thing I did, was just like a teaser for Blood Don't Lie, to try to hook them in. It worked last year, and I'm thinking, I'm hoping it worked as well this year, but it's a little different when I'm just a little dot in the screen. Then the next thing I did last year was when I assigned the journal assignment, what does purple sound like? I was strategic. You know, I didn't just write a journal entry that was, I mean, yes, it came from my heart, and yes, I wrote real, but I wrote really real. I went ahead and wrote something that was raw, and also my kids knew my son, so I wrote stuff about my son as a child, and then I wrote stuff about my classroom. So my son had purple sheets, and my classroom is periwinkle, so my journal entry, they're like, oh, and so they felt like a little, like I'd opened up to them. So this year, I wrote the 2020 version of it, where there's no purple on the sheets, and periwinkle is overwhelming because there are no kids in my classroom, and all I see is periwinkle, and it's basically, I use some pretty harsh language to show them what last year looked like versus this year, and I'm going to tell them that revisiting something you write is good. Then I'm going to let them, they're going to workshop my piece. I'm going to teach them how to workshop by killing my piece. But there's a sandwich step in between, and I do want to share my screen, and I definitely don't want to, I don't know how to do it because I want you to see it in presenter view, so I hope I do it well. And I will go fast. But this is something that if you want it, all you have to do is pluck out my pictures and my name and insert your pictures and your name, and it can work, I think. And it works very well. Last year, I'm going to do it with them tomorrow. So I'm hoping this is the one that you get to see. Okay. Are you seeing a presenter's view of something that says, from where do stories come? Mm-hmm. Okay, fantastic. Yay, I did something right. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So can you see everything? Can you see my notes too? Like, can you see where my cursor is?
Yeah, but are you going to put it on, are you going to show it, or?
Can you not see it?
No, we can see it, but it's not on show. Okay.
I don't want you to. I want you to see it as a teacher.
Gotcha.
Right?
Go for it.
This is the first slide, and down here, I have a note about what grammatical thing I'm teaching with them. Gotcha. So proper placement in an interrogative sense of your preposition and some things like that, and what kind of a character would speak like that. And obviously this is an educated character, so every slide has something you can use. I'm definitely not going to walk you through all of them because that would be boring. So the next slide, that's me in third grade, the beginning of third grade. And some kids can figure it out, some kids can't. But yeah, one kid told me that I needed to get braces. I was like, thanks, you're a monster. Okay, so then I have them write down what they see, and then I have them tell me what her story is based on what they can see in that one little screenshot, whatever. Do they like her, whatever, go to town. And then this is a picture of me at the end of third grade. And first of all, I'm sorry for the language. That's a badass picture of a third grader, right? But it's vastly different from that picture. So it begs the question, you know, same kind of thing. I had them go through the same process, write down what they see. Do they like me? Why or not? Why not? And how are these two girls similar? This slide. And then I've got some notes about some other grammatical stuff down there, whatever. How are these two girls different? Deal. And then what questions do you have about Meredith? And then we talk about how those questions can generate story. And then I get into Stephen King's You Ask Questions and then Stories Are Born. And I go into the story about Carrie. Well, what would happen if you had this reclusive girl whose mother was super religious and she never had friends, and then we had a Carrie is born. So I go into that little story. And then how can those questions generate story? And then this is where I get to beginning, middle, and end. And that's really the main thing, is that everything has to have a beginning, middle, and end. And you can see my notes, and you guys can have this. I certainly don't, I'm not, you know, whatever. Why should your reader care about your character? How does your story reveal about, what does it reveal about human beings? And how does it help to get to know us better? So I'm doing this on day 7, because that's the beginning of it all, right? That goes along with the commandments and the rules. So that's that's what this is about. Now, the good news is, can I get out of this and stop sharing this? And I will give this to any one of you if you want it with the notes, and you can just put your own pictures in there and you can open up. If not, you can, they don't know who Meredith is. You can use it with Meredith. I don't care.
Well, maybe, do you have a link to it? Because then you could just link it in the chat.
So I need to put it somewhere where,
Everybody's saying they want it. They don't want this, whatever, they don't want the excuses you're about to say. They're
why
saying
don't I
they
give it
want
to you? Why don't you put it in the Google Drive?
Well, I can, but I'm thinking like if you have a link, then I can put it in here, and then when people go, because it's recorded, they can nab it.
Yes. Okay. So that will work. That means I need to go save it somewhere where other people can access it, and I will do
Okay.
that in a minute.
Okay. While Shane is talking, maybe.
Yes.
Okay.
And then when they come back and I tell them to go turn their what does purple sound like prompt into a piece, I want a beginning, middle, and end. And then the next day I share mine and I let them rip me to shreds, and there we go. But I use those pictures strategically, because the first real piece that I shared with my small group was a tough piece to write, and it was about that little girl, and it explains why she looked like that in one picture and in another. Now, it's not, I mean, it's a story, so I obviously embellished some, but they were ready for it. So it was strategic. That's my deal.
Cool. Thank you.
Welcome.
I will say before we go to Shayna, again, I'm a little obviously self-conscious of this, is that I want to make sure if you do use Blood Don't Lie, that you do frame it kind of like how Meredith did. I mean, the whole purpose is not so that Levy can get his book in your class, is that it can if you attach it to the writing curriculum, I think it really enhances the experience that they have, because most times you don't see the writer's process. And just in the limited times, that when I've gone out to classes, when teachers have used it that way, when I just come in and I do the map, the students are like, oh my God, yeah, oh my God. They're just making the connection to my process, or the process of the writer in this case. That is, I feel like it's very useful to them. It just adds a layer to that. Would you guys agree, or just okay? Okay, Shayna, do you want to pick up? Are you?
Yes. Hi, I'm here. I'm here.
Hey.
Sorry. It's good to see y'all. So to kind of back on what everybody else was saying, I stuck pretty well with the curriculum, and I was fortunate that I didn't have to teach dramatic.
You're fading. We lost you. Okay, well, we can't quite hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, you're still
No.
kind of like a robot.
It's because I live in the country. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Do you want to find a good spot? Like, do you want to get really close to the router or something?
Yeah, that won't work. It's in the back, so I'm not gonna go up there.
Okay.
Let's see here.
All right. While we're waiting for Sheena to get to a good spot, is there, before we get to this year, is there anybody on the call that taught it last year that did something that you want to add to this, that did anything? You don't have to share your screen if it's not there, but is anything you can say that really worked last year for you? Anybody? No?
I can add stuff. I mean, I don't want to be the person who speaks the whole time, but I have
Okay.
so much to say. It was.
Go ahead if you have more to say. Shayna's looking for a spot, and then we'll.
Once this happened with the kids, and we started doing like what you said, both Kate and Christy, doing activities that are in the curriculum, they were so ready for Dr. Levy to come to my room. You know, I don't think they acted in front of him the way they acted about him around me, but they were floored and awed. And I think that's a winning combination too. I think you need to do the ones that he suggests and then see if you can get him to do a meeting. And I'm sorry, I'm sort of selling you, Dr. Levy.
Yeah, you are selling me out.
I am. I don't know how cheap you are. I don't know. But my point is, it really, and all my kids, I don't have a single kid who didn't love the book. Not one.
Oh, cool.
And I had several kids who just, they would read, I was watching them, and I'm not going to get to watch them this year, but they would just hold their book to their chest and go, no, or yeah, it was just a very good read for them.
Cool.
So, yeah.
That's really cool to hear.
I also think it's worth it to sacrifice some other things to make that happen. So moving forward, I'm only doing 2 plays, which hurts me because I've chose 5 plays that I loved. I'm going to do 2, and I'm going to have to make some choices for the multi-genre research project, which was a huge success, and I'm going to have to make that smaller. So I think that this is where I'm going to not rush.
Yeah, and I will say, since there are folks on the call that are not in Fulton County and not in Cobb County, because we did have meetings with those folks, and one of the 2 takeaways, because everybody was saying from Fulton, everybody was saying from Cobb, so I'm assuming it's probably your situation too. On top of, if you had a normal situation, you're hearing like Meredith say, oh, I would probably back off of some plays. Now people are like, how do I save time? Because now my instruction time is less than it was last year, and we started later, and you know, and my district is saying I can only be in front of them this much time, and all that kind of stuff. What we came up with was, yeah, I would do less plays. I would not read as many plays. I would probably definitely truncate the MGP as well. Or, you know, you don't have to make the MGP shorter. You can give them more time for it, but you wouldn't spend as much, I guess, synchronous time, for lack of a better term, doing the MGP. But those are places I think you can cut and not lose as much. You're not going to have as much, but you're not going to. Go ahead, Meredith.
I am going to make their multi-genre research project be related to their 10-minute play.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to make sure that what they're researching is going to be what they want to say about their universe through their play. So I'm kind of smushing those a little bit more together, or because I don't think we'll get through the 10-minute plays. They won't get finished if I don't do something.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like I told you, most of you heard me say, I'm teaching tonight. I'm teaching a genres course, intro to creative writing genres course at KSU, which is 10 graduate students, 10 undergrad students, and I'm using most of the dramatic writing curriculum, but I only have them 1 day a week, 3 hours for a semester. So obviously I can't do all of it too. So I'm sort of having the same puzzle as you guys. I'm definitely doing an MGP with them because I want to show them that good writing, because this is not a teaching class. So, you know, but it is this idea that writers research when they want to tell a good story. And so I do think it's very valuable to teach, you know, people who are learning different styles of storytelling, that you got to do the research, and that but it's a different research process than doing a regurgitating traditional research paper, that you're trying to make something from it. So I figured out that I'm also gonna have to, you know, get into the playwriting part of the curriculum, and then I'm gonna use, and maybe you guys did this last year, but I'm gonna use, they have to have at least one scene in their one playwriting scene in their MGP. So I do think wherever you are, what I like about the MGP for you guys is it does have this catch-all component to it, like this ongoing thing where you don't have to slow down your curriculum to just do the MGP. Like you can do the MVP and then you can go, okay, I'm gonna do 1 or 2 required genres because I'm teaching them those genres and they have to do that. They won't hate you for it at all because it'll just be natural. I think they'll be like, okay, I have to write a 2-person scene anyway. I'll just put in my MGP, right? So, sorry. So that's, yeah, I'm kind of figuring that out too. What else? And those are the 2 main places where I feel like you can cut and not lose the guts of what the class is. Do you guys agree? And so let's talk about some of the challenges now, and we can open this up to any and all. But what are you thinking about with teaching? And most of you are virtual right now. Who is not virtual right now? In Pickens County is not virtual. And are you guys in Bibb? You're face to face? Oh. He's saying 1, and that means 1.
I'm saying one moment.
Yeah.
Had to find my microphone.
Yeah. Hey, Howard.
Hey, how we doing? We will not have kids until after Labor Day.
But
We
then
have spent all of August learning Canvas and how to integrate Canvas with Infinite Campus and other things. So we haven't begun anything.
So
with students.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you are going to be face to face, but you're not starting until after Labor Day.
No, everything will be virtual. Everything's going to be digital after Labor Day.
Oh.
Until at least the end of October.
Gotcha.
So the first 9 weeks is going to be digital for sure.
So the writing life is going to be virtual.
It's going to be virtual.
So, okay. That's a good jumping off spot. And I'm seeing some things in the chat too. Yeah, but we got to figure out how do we teach the writing life. I guess the main part is to not only maintain but build that community that a lot of you experienced last year. How do we do that this year? And so anybody have any answers or complaints on that? And I'm going to read the chat. Yeah,
I teach my class is second semester, so I have not done it yet, so I have no room to talk whatsoever. However, the Zoom breakout rooms are really awesome. I'm Atlanta Public Schools, and we're all in on Zoom. And I do think that that's 100% doable. But I say that I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, and I have done that this summer when I did the teacher training, and we were able to workshop. But at the same time, I'm hearing from people, that they're not allowed to use the breakout thing. So everybody's got these different laws and, but for workshopping, we used it this summer and it was awesome.
Well, I can speak to that. I've been using the breakout rooms, and I know like my audience with teenagers is different from your audience with the training in the summer. And so I can speak to it from that perspective, and that the kids are really doing a good job, and I can pop into the breakout rooms unannounced.
Right. And
so they don't know if I'm going to show up or not. And so that's been really beneficial. But at the same time, and I asked the question, I said, what happens if they're talking about inappropriate things in the breakout rooms? And we were told, if they're sitting in your classroom in a group, you can't know everything they're saying.
Right.
So we've been given the freedom to use breakout rooms, and it really has been beneficial. I've used them multiple times, and the kids are really doing a good job.
And I forget, is Gwinnett using Zoom for video?
We are.
Okay.
Zoom, strictly Zoom, except for today when Zoom went down and everybody transitioned to Google Meets, but or Google Teams, whatever.
Oh, that's cool that you guys transitioned. Yeah, Cobb County sent out a thing that, Zoom broke. And let us be clear, it broke everywhere in the world. So school is broken today.
Yes.
So this was Atlanta Public Schools' first day. It was our first day of school. Everyone's so nervous. We've been training teachers for 3 weeks, right? Zoom, 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 Zoom. And then it's trickling in that we're logging in and we're getting that crazy, like, And it felt so exciting and juicy that it was like a Grady High School hacker. You know, we were like, ooh, like amazing, genius, evil. Yeah, they're going to Georgia Tech next year. So it's really disappointing when I was like Gossip Mill, like all my friends, Grady High School is bringing it down. But as it turns out, it was.
But it could be that APS broke it since you guys started. Yeah.
This is being recorded. I won't say anything.
Okay.
I have a question about Zoom. So how many of you are actually using Zoom now and Zoom is good and legal? Because it's not legal for me. Okay.
I'm using.
Is anybody using Teams? I know Fulton County you are. Okay, so Teams, I'll tell you this. Teams, you can only have 4 legal meetings at one time or breakout rooms or channels and groups. But they're supposed to release it 4th quarter, which would be October, where you can have more. There's a cheaty little situation that I'm not sure I want to try. I think I want to cheat differently. So I want to know if you think this can work, not if you think it's ethical. Ethics aren't going to matter on this one. Do you think that kids away from, if it's their homework, their asynchronous learning is to workshop these, can they record their Zoom and get me those recordings of their workshop? Is this a thing, or do I just want it to be a thing and it's not?
They can record on Zoom.
How do they get them to me?
They can give you the link to it. They can record it and send you the link.
Yeah, they're saying my students are completely online and they are videoing themselves, reading their stories and posting in discussion boards and replying with video. And then obviously Jordan and Kate have talked about Flipgrid. I'm about to start using Flipgrid in both of my classes too. Like tonight I'm gonna introduce it, and I had to teach myself this weekend Flipgrid. Also VoiceThread. I was using VoiceThread today. Who's used VoiceThread before?
Wait, Aaron, I have a question for you before you go. Flipgrid is one person recording, one recording. Is there any way to take, say, a Zoom recording and pop it in Flipgrid?
Yeah.
Flipgrid's legal.
Or I think you can do that in VoiceThread. I don't know about Flipgrid. Somebody would have to tell me. Can you bring in media in Flipgrid?
So think about this way.
Flipgrid, what it does is you have one person, and then lots of people can make comments, which is what we're talking about as far as a workshop, even a thank you note situation. You could do that. There's something about the thank you notes that I'm resisting on that front because I want them to write it. And you can also say, well, connecting it to the curriculum, there's something that they're meeting state standards if you teach the thank you notes correctly, because they're having to either summarize or quote, or usually both. And that's something that you would learn in advanced composition, et cetera, et cetera. So, but, in these times, I'm not against it, to figure out a variety of ways. So it depends on, because what I'm hearing is there's this, either the inability to use breakout rooms, or you can't get enough in enough people or enough rooms to make it okay in Teams, which I don't understand that, but but yeah, you in VoiceThread, which I believe is free, you can upload media, video, pictures, documents, and then there people can comment on those. So it's something. Maybe I'll throw together a short video on VoiceThread, or if somebody else uses it, because I think that's something else that could be used. But
is it legal in Fulton County? Joel, do you know?
I do not know whether it's legal to do that with Flipgrid. I haven't tried anything like that. And I don't know. I'm not even sure if it'll work to do that in Flipgrid.
I meant VoiceThread. I know we can use Flipgrid.
Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't used VoiceThread.
I haven't used it either. I don't know if it's a Microsoft legal app. We can use it.
I
It sounds
don't
like
know
it
that
would.
it's Microsoft.
Okay. I'll look.
Yeah, I
But
know
listen,
that.
you know what?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want you to think that I'm promoting criminal behavior. Kids can do their asynchronous work however they deem it. They can do whatever they need to do to get their stuff done. I just can't do a Zoom with them. Right? So if they've got some group work, they can do whatever they need to do. But if it's during the synchronous time, then I can't use Zoom.
What you're saying is in Fulton County, do we have anybody else besides Joel and Meredith from Fulton on here? In Fulton County, what you're saying is that they could workshop as long as it wasn't, they can workshop together as long as it wasn't during your synchronous time.
And I'm the one who's putting it together. Yes.
Is that how you understand it, Joel?
Yeah, that's how I understand it, basically. Yeah.
What do you have thoughts on how you're going to conduct workshopping if you are?
Well, I tried one today, just using channels, using the workaround of channels. And Meredith's right in that you can only do you have 4 open at a time. But what I did was I went ahead and pre-created the channels, and I told the students, 35 of them, right, to go into their rooms, right? You 4 in that room, you 4 in this other room. So I was actually able to go in and start and sort of join the small groups. The first 4 of them, I join them, and then they join. We're able to start up their little session. Then I was able to leave their session and then go start the other 4 new, for a total of 8, right? The other 4 new ones. So to get them all started in there, it took a little longer, maybe a couple of minutes longer at the very beginning. But then I could check on my left side. It shows you all the channels and whether they actively in video at that time. And you can click on them and pop into them as you see fit. Granted, only 4 at a time, it can be, but since you're only going into one time anyway, at that point, it doesn't really matter. I'll just pop into this room, then leave that room, and then I'll pop into the next room and leave that room. So it worked out okay. It was a little tricky at the beginning, but I was pleasantly surprised that I was able to pop into each of them rooms. And that, yes, they're actually stuff and giving feedback. So I was very, very pleased.
So what you're saying is that in that system, you ran 2 workshop groups in channel. They call it channels.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're teaching the other 30 or other 20 something students?
No, all 35 of them were in 9 different groups, 9 different channels.
Oh, okay.
And I was able to get them started and get them in there. Obviously, I can't monitor all of them all the time, but I can go into each group one at a time and check in with them, see how it's going, and then leave that room and go into another room. So it worked out.
Okay. So, all right. So you can get more than 4 channels. You got 9 channels and
it was tricky. Yeah. It was in terms of setting it up initially, it was hard because, at a certain point you have to abandon the first 4 that you know what I mean? You have to sort of leave them alone and then come back to them at a later point. So it worked. I was a little bit surprised that it did work. I thought it was just going to be completely, awful, but it actually worked out okay.
But yeah, like you guys said, if you were live, they could be saying stuff under their, where you can't hear it too when you have them broken up into groups.
Yeah. At a certain point, they're just going to be on their honor for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, all right. Any other questions or thoughts about how you do the writing life on virtually, basically? Thoughts, concerns? No problems? Not worried at all?
No, I'm worried. I'm super worried. I'm worried about reading plays. I'm worried about all of it. So I'm just kind of taking little bites and trying to get through that bite and take the next bite. It's tricky.
Well, then let me ask this: how is it for those of you who started? You know, in Macon, they don't start school until it snows. It looks like, but it's how's it going? How's it going so far? Those of you who are teaching it.
So we're face to face. So am I the only one? Maybe.
No, we're face to face too. Well, not face to face, but we're live.
Okay.
Virtually.
What district are you in?
This is Barrett. I'm in Rockdale County.
Rockdale County, that's right.
So what I did, and I don't know what other districts could do about the plays. I was also very concerned about, you know, copyright law, and I know we touched on this in our last group meeting, but I just made sure on the first day of class to give them all their texts for the whole semester and say take them home every day, because our principal has made it abundantly clear that we could be out any day. So what we did last, you know, in March, is that we had materials pickups for students. So we had like book pickup. Like, I don't know if that's anything that you guys could do, or if it's more of a concern of, you know, you're sharing materials, which is you know, I know that that's a concern too. I know our school is getting digital licenses through our media center for a lot of the books as well. Plays are harder to come by, but some of the books, you know, that are available out there.
I think it's only a concern if you teach more than one section and you have class sets, right? Because then you need another class set or 2 or 3 or whatever. Yeah.
Right, and I am blocked, so you know, it does help with that. I do have 2 classes, but you know, the next one won't be until January. Hopefully, I get the books back. We'll see.
Right. Yeah. How else is it going since you started? What's the difference between virtual and face to face, as far as those of you who did it last year? How's it going? Or anybody? Yeah.
Well, today was our first day, so
And Rockdale's Augusta, right?
no, it's in Conyers.
Oh, Conyers. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have my favorite superintendent. Okay.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
So today was a great day. I mean, it was more of like a lot of we did the first impressions journal. I did a piece, and they really enjoyed it. So far, I mean, it's just the first day. So far, it went well. Only concern I have is our district doesn't allow us to do the breakout rooms. So this will be interesting. I did go to a pre-planning meeting on how to, it was actually for theater teachers, but I went anyway, on how to, you know, teach theater or any kind of art in the virtual setting. And you know, it was helpful, but I'm still not sure how to do it without the breakout rooms.
So Barrett, I have, and I was going to tell you guys, the next session that I'm gonna do is, I have a theater teacher who's gone through this, who's gone through dramatic writing, but has really gone to town on how do you teach theater in the Zoom space, which I think will still help. Will still help English teachers, because she's really figured out, well, how do you make use of movements in this space, and improv and all this other kind of stuff, so that we can get kids, you know, they're just sitting, and you guys know, I don't have to tell you, I'm gonna start getting mad, but like, you know, they're just sitting there, you know, and what do you do with the theater class? How do you get them moving? And not, you know, and Christy, I'm sure you're going through this too. That's one session I would say, even though if you're not a theater teacher, it might be worth attending, or at least checking out the recording of it, because there's lots that you can do on. I know that she teaches mainly on Zoom. They use Canvas, but they use the video for Zoom. But there's lots you can do with it, which I think will help. Anything else on any other sort of relaying on how it's going so far? Is is it a buzzkill? Is it just as good? Is it just
Well,
as good but different? Is it?
I could say a couple of things about that. I miss being able to tell them to turn and talk to their neighbor, because I just like, you know, the turn and talk is so important in building community, just talking to the people near them. I miss making eye contact with every person in the room too. That's also something that's really hard to not have and not be able to do. And all the 1,000 little formative things that you do as you just, you know, look around the room is really, it's becoming very clear how limiting being on a screen is.
Yeah, I think I was talking to Meredith about this, is that I think veteran teachers will probably have a harder time, because if you're used to like scrolling through the room and owning the room and whatever, and now you're like talking and you can't get any of that response that you're used to. Have you guys been feeling that? Because I know I felt it a little bit. I felt it this summer, and then last Monday as well. I do think you got to fight through it, but you're thinking like you're talking to nobody a lot.
I'm driving, so interrupt me if I start breaking up. But
Okay.
one of the things that has been really great, I did a spirit week for them. So they had like coffee shop background Monday, dream vacation Tuesday, and getting them to play and teaching them how to play with the features in Zoom and the reactions, that has replaced some of that formative stuff.
That's a great point. Yeah. So are you a Zoom master then?
Well, I wouldn't say master, but I'm earning my stripes.
You're getting there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, Rachel, then when we do this, make sure you come on in case you can add to some of the Zoom tricks. I do think it makes a difference. Again, not everybody's on Zoom, but if you can figure out the equivalent. I think Zoom's the easiest, though. Except I guess when it shuts down. Any other things of concern on the writing life? Do you feel pretty good and confident on it?
I would say too that it's not the best, but TJ and I have had some success with Google Comments, where I can monitor all those Google Docs and I can pop in and out, and we just had them shared to a Google folder. They recorded on Flipgrid, and then we just did like virtual workshop where they were commenting on the documents.
Yeah, it's a little imperfect, but because they have to maybe do a little bit more work than you'd like them to get to the point where they can put in those comments, but it's all monitored.
Tell us about that again. So you guys are team teaching, right? Are you team teaching?
No, we're teaching different sections. She's got honors, I'm doing on level.
Okay, got you. So tell us what you're talking about. Just slow down for me.
Sure. So I set up individual student folders in Google Drive.
Gotcha.
That I created, and it's just their name, and shared that with them so that they are editors and I am an editor, so we both kind of co-own that folder, and all of their student work goes into it, so that I can go in and see what they're working on, and I can make comments, but they can share, as long as they're working within Google Docs, they can share their work with other students and set them as commentators or commenters, and they'll be able to go in and highlight specific things and make comments. I like the way you wrote this, et cetera, et cetera.
But but you also talked about, so if they do a Google Doc and they share it, then you can see everything that's shared and then other students can write comments on the Google Doc, is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
But what did you say about Flipgrid?
Well, we have used it very lightly. We did it for their I Remember, so we could hear them reading their I Remember first drafts. And for some of the students that didn't want to read publicly for their final version as well, though that was supposed to be today and didn't happen. But what I did, and this is kind of what I was saying, it's a little more complicated than it should be. I had them read onto Flipgrid, but then you can't do writing comments on Flipgrid that I've been able to find. So we also had students watch the Flipgrid and then go into their Google Doc to do comments. So it was kind of juggling two things, but that's how we've used it so far.
Okay.
I really like the Google Doc worker. Really useful to teach you who doesn't have a room capability. Does anyone know, is there something like that, the Google, where they can all write on a Google Doc and we can all sort of see it and share? Is there something like that in Teams? I need to find something like that in Teams.
I think there's because we're using a little bit of Teams for our faculty. Can't you do it in the collaborative space? So you can make a shared with your class collaborative space?
That's, I think that conceptually you're right. I think that it sounds like that's what the space should be for, right? Collaborative space, but I haven't yet been able to figure out how to set it up.
Okay.
You can make a OneNote on using 365, and on the OneNote there is that collaborative space, and I know that you can stick, I know that you can create groups in there where they can work together on stuff. I haven't actually used it, but I have friends who are using it and they really like it.
So what's a OneNote?
OneNote is, sorry, one second. OneNote is the, it's like a collaborative notebook that you can make, and you can create it right from Teams. And then there's like different sections to it. So like there's student notebooks where they can put like all of their work that's just for them. There's a teacher space where you can put just the teacher stuff. And then there's a collaborative space where you can create groups and they can work on it together. But it's basically just an application on Microsoft 365. Yeah, just like Word or PowerPoint.
Yeah, OneNote's been around for a while, and we've actually had to upload our weekly lesson plans into OneNote for our administration. The math department really likes OneNote. I will say that. Nobody else likes OneNote. It's like a hellscape of like, you get lost in there. It's awful.
I hate it. I agree.
Well, I would say to you guys also look into, look at VoiceThread. I can't answer the question whether a county will block it. I know KSU allows it, and I use my KSU email to access it, so I don't know if it's a KSU thing, but it's free. And it can do all that, where you can put something in like a document or Flipgrid, and you can leave comment, like voice recording comments if you want to, and also you can narrate and write on it as you go, which may be it may work on some of what you guys are talking about. Yeah, maybe I don't think I can show you right now. It's on my other computer, but yeah, I can show you what a voice thread looks like. But okay, but if somebody else talking, I'll find it. Nobody else is going to talk.
I can speak to OneNote for just a second. Most of my teacher friends are using OneNote to set up notebooks for their kids to pre-organize their materials for handouts and assignments, etc. Once you set it up, it makes their lives easier, but it also removes some of their organization responsibility from them. So I'm torn at this point. With dramatic writing, having juniors and seniors, I don't want to organize their things for them. I'm considering cracking and using it for 9th grade on level, regular, straight up, because they could use some help in that area. So I'm not sure how I feel about it, but there is a place where you can share docs. It's clunky. It's clunky. That's the best way to put it. It's not like Google Drive. Honestly, Google Drive was the easiest way to share stuff. It was the best because I just went in there and I had my Google Drive. They all had access to it. I put folders in each classes, and I, for whatever, let's say it was process writing number 1, I had, first go, second go, feather circle go, and everybody can access everything. And I would be using Google Drive today if Google Drive wasn't also not an option. Google Drive was awesome for all of
Yeah,
it.
I'm sure Joel will get it back for you guys.
Joel, could you work harder on that for me?
He's got the power.